Hear me good. You can hear me good. I look better like that.
Okay, all right. Just tell. I don't want any complaints. Just tell Mr. Bush.
There will be no
we should move
complaints.
The place where it can be heard.
I can never get it to have it no deep.
You know what you should do? Attach it to your beard.
Jake Moore.
Check, check, 1, 2. How about that? Nothing?
I mean, it's coming up a little bit.
Hello? Okay. I'm gonna do like Bob. I'm gonna do like Bob and hold it like that. How about that? I know it looks ridiculous, but it works.
Check.
Test.
No.
I'll put you up even more if you don't.
Check, check, 1, 2, check.
Yeah, better.
There you go.
See,
The technical guy.
that's why you have.
Evening, fellas. How we go?
I have an email, and Whit is on it. He said they lost the email. But yes, my car. I don't care. I know. I don't look. I try not to do things out of personal privilege, but sometimes it gets to a point where you gotta go. I'm gonna put my foot down in this pile. I took a picture of my foot. You ready?
We got to meet on this bulk item thing.
Mr. Mayor, it's 7 o'clock.
Thank you. I'd like to call the public hearing to receive comments on ordinance 2001. The land development, is there anybody here that have comments on ordinance 2001? Anybody? Okay. Seeing none? That's the zoning, land zoning. Development regulations update that we were passing tonight. Seeing none, call that to close. I would like to call to order the public hearing on ordinance 2004. That's to rezone a piece of property from fringe agricultural to general residential. Is there anybody here to make comments on that?
It's on Irmo Drive, isn't it?
No.
Salem Church, okay. Oh, there's something else on Irmo Drive.
Right. Seeing none, call that, come for it. Thank you. Give your name, please, and
My name is Marsha Clark. I live 1000 Hollow Tree Court. I have a bit of general concern about this, is that whenever we go from agricultural to general residential, considering the past usage is not being, the language of what the property was previously used for is not being included in the ordinance. Typically speaking, and historically for that area, volatile organic compounds, DDT, and other hazardous chemicals have been used by the agricultural industry since 1885. There is no reference in this ordinance that if it's going to be used for general residential, that accompanying documents show that those contaminants are not in the soil. And
good point. Thank you. Any more comments? All right, I'd like to close that public hearing. And I'd like to do the call to order the February 4th, 2020 meeting of the Irmo Town Council. I want to remind you that the meetings are being live broadcast and live streamed on YouTube and the internet. When you come to the podium, please speak clearly and succinctly. I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance by Mrs. Condon. Would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation? Will the council please rise?
Oh, excuse me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, give us the wisdom tonight to direct the town in the right direction, to do all the right things for growth and consideration of the citizens. Take care of our police officers, take care of our firemen and our military, whether they be here or overseas. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Is the reading of the minutes for January 21, do I hear a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
And a second.
Okay. Are there any changes?
I don't see any.
Any changes? Seeing none, you're ready to vote? All in favor of the motion as written, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Report of standing. Mr. Brown, do you have any changes to the administrative briefing?
No, sir, I have nothing to add.
All right. Has everybody read the administrative briefing electronically? You have any questions for Mr. Brown? Okay.
No.
I have a question, though. The chili cook-off was well attended?
Oh, very well attended.
Okay, good.
Over 900 people.
Wow,
They're still counting the money.
that's good. I'm delighted.
We should
Good.
have a presentation on Friday at 3 o'clock at Matthias. If anybody's wanting to come, and I'm hoping is the press here? Where'd Kirk go? Oh, the press is here. hopefully the press will cover the presentation of the check, the donation to the United Kidney Foundation on Friday at 3 o'clock. Amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Consideration of communications. Ms. Keller-Barron, would you like to give us some consideration of communications?
I appreciate this so much because I see you've got a lot to do. I'm Keller Barron. I'm with the League of Women Voters of the Columbia area, and I have with me 3 other members that are here, Mary Edmonds, Adam Klein, and Maggie Baumgardner. We're all working to develop a website called Vote 411, and we were here last October, and I think you have the link, which is just really great. Vote 411 is an effort to provide election information for voters to find out more about the candidates. I believe you have an election coming up March 3rd, and we have sent out invitations to your candidates. I think you have 4 that are running, and the questions that we have asked them are these. What specific knowledge and skills do you have that would enable town council to function more effectively? And secondly, what are the top 3 challenges facing the town council, and what do you recommend as solutions? So we think that when the candidates answer these, and you as a voter go on the website, you put in your address and your ballot comes up. Then you're able to see what the candidate said, and hopefully you can make a choice to who you're going to vote for among those candidates. This is a free service. We've been doing it nationally for a number of years. Last year, we don't endorse or oppose candidates, and when you put your answers in, they're there. We don't deal with any of that. We're nonpartisan. But during the 2018 election, we had 90 individuals that visited the site statewide and nearly 17,000 in Richland and Lexington County. So now we've got this coming up, and we think this is going to be an exciting time. I brought with me an Hermes. I was able to determine that he's not an ancient Hermes.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having me. My name's Adam Klein. I was born and raised right here in Irmo, and my parents are still residents and voters. I've told them about vote411.com because I believe, or .org, because I believe it is a resource that every voter should have to stay informed on candidates and the other important voter information. It just is a great resource to use. It makes information very readily available to you, and I think everybody should use it. Thank you.
I forgot to tell you all that if you go on now, you will find answers about the presidential primary. And then later we'll do the statewide primaries and the general election. So now you can look on for the Democratic primary. We'd have done the Republican primary, but they didn't have one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Whit-Klein.
Mr. Mayor, March 20th, which is a Friday morning, the town of Irmo and Lexington County Stormwater Consortium is putting on a rain barrel workshop and would like to invite the residents of the town of Irmo to sign up for that early so they can get a spot. We're going to have about 24 people at the event, and first come, first serve, so we need you to sign up sooner the better so you can get a spot. And we also invite anybody that lives in Lexington County on this side of the lake to join us. Normally the rain barrel workshops are held over in Lexington. So last year we had this event here. It was a big success, and we're bringing it back again this year. So hoping that anybody that's interested in having a rain barrel, this is a good opportunity. The cost is only $30, so it's a good price. And if you're interested in it, get signed up early so you can get a spot. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any more consideration communications?
I'd just like to do a non-binding resolution.
Well, I can't hear you, Mr. Cal.
Make a resolution that February 4th, 2020 be considered Bob Brown Day, since it is his birthday, and he's worked hard for the town, and I think he deserves that. So,
Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy birthday.
happy birthday.
Sounds like a good resolution. We'll make it a, we won't have any meetings on that day. How's that?
Would the candles be a fire hazard?
Could be.
I gotta punch this one in.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Bush. You have one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So I received an email from a concerned HOA about the promotion that I've been doing of the Veterans Park. And it was a very kindly worded letter, but they were concerned that too many people would start going to the Veterans Park.
Too many people start going to the Veterans Park.
Yeah. And that's because I listed that on Google, where if you searched Irmo Veterans Park, nothing would come up before.
So you fixed that.
So I fixed that, but I created a problem, as so often happens. And so they are concerned about traffic now turning around down there and potentially trash if people leave that behind. So I do think the trash concern, if we don't have a can there, is important, but I want to make sure that they know that they're heard.
Does everybody know where the Veterans Park is?
Wow, resounding.
See that? All these people know where the
Okay,
park
all
is
right.
already.
Yeah,
And we got a trash can over there?
There's a trash can.
Okay.
all right.
So there we go.
I believe it.
We got a trash can and everybody knows where it is.
There it is.
Thank you, Mr. Signature. Any more? Let's see the communications. Seeing none, this is a portion of our meeting called Presentation by Citizens. This is your opportunity to speak on agenda items only. This is not a debate. It's for us to hear from you before we actually vote on the approved agenda and the items that are coming up. It's for you to give me some more feedback on those issues, okay? Thank you very much, Ms. Clark, about that fringe agricultural change. First up is Mr. Mark Pouliot.
Good evening, Council. I rise in opposition to Section 9, Items A and B, establishing term limits for Planning Board and ZBA volunteers. The Mayor wants to establish term limits to volunteers on the Planning Board and Board of Appeals, yet the Council controls who serves on these committees. Volunteers, non-paid citizens who want to contribute to our town, and you, the council, have control over who serves on these committees. Where is the problem? Where is the need to implement term limits? When you look at the other committees you have formed, are they all busting with people vying to serve? Clearly, no. For the Planning Board and ZBA, you absolutely need knowledgeable, long-term residents, professionals, want to give back to the town that they love. And they serve at the will of you, the council. They are voted in by you. If you put term limits on these board members, you may have an issue filling these roles with competent, qualified people. Then what? Pay them? You know by now, we don't have the money to do that. I have managed enough companies to know you don't have to like the people you work with. Are they doing their job? If the answer is yes, cherish them. Thank them for doing a very tough, thankless job. Last week, just before you voted down another ridiculous, oppressive item, when the mayor wanted to remove any board member at any time for any reason, Kathy, you said it best when you said,
Councilwoman Kathy.
we are better than this. Be better than this, council.
I want to remind you that this is a public participation, and the respect that you give us will be afforded back to you. These are councilwomen and councilmen on this stage, and I'm the mayor of Irmo. I appreciate being addressed as such when you address this council. Next is Mr. George Glassmeyer.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to address item 8 on the agenda, precisely presentation by citizens. This would make the third consecutive meeting, Mr. Walker, Mr. Mayor, that you have elected to not call my name in the order in which I've signed the sign-in sheet. Tonight I made a note, mental note, I signed the sign-in sheet second after these nice folks from the League of Women Voters, yet you decided to call Mr. Pouliot ahead of me. You did this 2 meetings ago, and I thought it was perhaps an oversight, so I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Mayor. So I approached you after the meeting and walked up to you and asked you why you didn't call me in the order I signed in, and your response was, because you didn't want to. At which point I asked you, how does that square with your pledge of respect for citizens that you made in your inauguration speech, you know, the one that the state newspaper documented that you plagiarized from multiple sources, that speech. And at which point you became physically aggressive with me, which was viewed by a number of people in this room and captured on videotape. And then you told me that, quote, this is your courtroom. Let me remind you, sir, the town of Irmo did not elect you to be mayor, not judge, and certainly not king. And this courtroom is not yours. It belongs to me and all the people in this room and all the citizens of this town. And then you pointed out to me, then you made the remark that you don't work for me, sir. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Walker, Mr. Mayor. As long as you hold elected office in this town and continue to draw a paycheck from this town, you work for me, every citizen in this room, and every citizen in this town. And if you can't get your head around that and get wrapped around that concept, I would strongly advise you to resign, sir.
Next, Mr. Mike Ward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing us to get up to speak tonight. I also want to thank the town for the chili cook-off. I participated as a cooker, and it was a fun time for all. There was a lot of laughter, a lot of smiles, a lot of good conversation. I also want to thank everybody that fought so hard to get the nighttime hearing with the PSC here in Irmo. I attended that. It was well attended. I believe at the beginning it was standing room only. So it was really good to see everybody show up and kind of show out for Irmo to let Blue Granite know that we are not just going to sit idly by. To get to the point with the agenda items specifically, I want to address items 9A and B. I also rise in opposition to those. I want to provide just a little support behind that. Mr. Sickinger, in a previous meeting, you had stated that if you're not, you said, and I quote, if I'm not doing my job, though, voters will not want me in that seat. From everything that I understand with commissions, you 4 at the moment, soon to be 5 after March 3rd, you are the voters. So if somebody comes for an open seat, you're the ones that can vote them in or vote them out. I continued listening to the arguments that were kind of passed back and forth, the debate that was passed back and forth. Mr. Mayor, and there was a statement made that the goal here is to encourage people to be involved. I double-checked, and for the past 4 years, we haven't had a vacancy where nobody signed up in the talent book to fill that vacancy. So I'm not sure that our goal should be to encourage people to be involved. We should always be advertising and marketing our positions, but I think I don't want to say it this way, but it's the only way I can think of under my time limit, but it's almost a false narrative, and I don't want to see that happen in our town. Mr. Bush has been asking since January 7th to have A and B amended so that if nobody actually is here to apply through the talent book, that we can change it. Mr. Moore in that meeting said, all you got to do is go back and amend the ordinance and fix it. Why do we have to go fix something that isn't broken right now? Those are my arguments for 9A and B. And then I have a concern about 10B. I'm all for term limits if they're due. I am just really excited to hear Mr. Sickinger, Councilman Sickinger, and the other councilmen and mayors' arguments for and against this before I have an official opinion if I am for or opposed it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Thank you. Are there any other people that wanted to address the items on the agenda? Seeing none, under unfinished business, third and final reading of ordinance 1928. That's the establishment of the term limits for, 2 term limits for the zoning board of appeals. Is there a motion?
So move.
As modified, well, second? Okay, we made some modifications as you see in red. Oh, well, you can't tell on this, but as modified, we made those modifications at last meeting. Mr. Bush, is that what you modified it to?
Yeah, yes.
You want to make a motion to amend it?
I do want to make a motion to amend and just add the word qualified.
Where do you want to add it?
Well,
In the
make the
event,
motion first and then
make a motion to,
a second.
Second.
Okay, now, Mr. Bush,
to add the word qualified
where?
between new and applicants.
Okay, I'm looking just a minute.
So in the event no new qualified applicants apply?
Correct.
Where's that at?
No new qualified applicants.
New qualified, okay. Okay, it's been properly moved to second for the modification. All those in favor of the modification, raise your right hand. All opposed, it's unanimous. Now it's third and final reading, ready for the third and final reading? Any more comments? All those in favor of third and final reading, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's passed unanimously. B, third and final reading of 1930. Establish term limits for the planning commission. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So move.
You moved?
I'll second.
Second. And you're gonna make that same motion?
I'd like the motion to modify this or amend this as well.
Okay, is there a motion to amend it to add the word qualified?
Yes, second.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to modify, please raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. The motion to third and final reading of ordinance 2001 is modified. Is there, we already made the motion, second, ready to vote? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Third and final reading of ordinance 2001 to replace the entire Irmo zoning ordinance with the modifications we made last meeting and the current zoning, where's that at? The current zoning ordinance rules and land development ordinances that we adopted. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Bush, second. Ms. Condo made a motion, Mr. Bush, second. Any comments? No? Third and final reading, all those in favor of third and final reading, raise your right hand. All opposed? Unanimous. D, second reading of ordinance 2002 to amend the Irmo Town Code to require broken, cracked, or broken windows on commercial buildings to be replaced within 30 days. Is there a motion for the second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, and there's a modification, I believe, to add the words cracked or chipped. Is there a motion for that modification? Anybody make that motion?
Yes. So moved.
Ms. Condon makes that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of that motion to add the words cracked or chipped, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Now reads broken, cracked, or chipped windows must be boarded up, may be boarded up, awaiting repairs for a maximum of 30 days. All those in favor of
I'm sorry. Is there a discussion here?
Well, wait a minute. All those in favor of second reading, we already had a motion. Is there?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss.
Okay, go ahead.
So I had a constituent reach out, and I'm trying to find the comment, but they said something along the lines of, "This exists already in our code."
Not cracked windows.
So what's the difference between where it exists in our code right now for commercial properties and this ordinance?
Mr. Brown?
I think it's,
Yeah, the big difference is if you have a broken window in a commercial property, if they board it up, then they've met the code. We never required them to replace the window, which is what this ordinance is doing.
Got it. That works.
but this can be boarded up for 30 days, right?
Yeah, for 30 days.
Okay.
The current one, yes, for 30
Okay.
days. It may be insurance or any kind of reason that it's broken.
And this goes back to the broken window theory. I believe in it. I do. I really do.
Mr. Bush?
I think it clarifies an ordinance, so
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Any other comments? Any discussion? Ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Second final reading of ordinance 2004 to rezone a portion of Muskrat Run Road from fringe agricultural with chickens and guns and stuff to general residential where you have portions of general residential where you have houses. It's just a small portion. Is there a motion for second reading approval?
I make a motion.
Mr. Kelly made a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Sickinger second. Is there a discussion?
I had a question. Just
Yes, sir.
this is out near you, right?
Yeah, it's. I think that's the Mott's property, or I don't know
Okay.
who owns it now, but they want to build this subdivision here.
Oh, okay. So
You
that's
see that little piece for the
yeah, I see it. Okay.
So I think the comment that was made is right on topic here. Especially, I think it points to the fact that we don't have any regulations around that.
And I
There's
agree.
no environmental concerns, there's no checklist, there's no process that I can tell aside from anything that might come from DHEC or,
That's what we do. It's
Yeah.
called DHEC, but
But he has a good point, though. If it had some toxic chemicals they used on that property for 1920s and 30s, and now we're going to build a nice $300,000 house on that land, and the people are going to potentially get sick from it.
kids running around in the backyard, and then
We never had any kind of environmental study done or required that to be done.
I think it points out the need for us to have that.
We don't have that in our ordinance right now, right? So do we have to have a need for that? We have to, I mean, how do we, would that
yes.
help me?
Almost all of the property in Lexington County at one point in time was agriculture.
Turn your mic on, I can't hear you.
Is it on?
There you go.
At one point in time, almost all property in Lexington County was agriculture. What's gonna basically happen before a subdivision is built, the lending institution, which is going to provide the construction money, is going to require a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental.
Okay.
We basically rely upon DHEC and the subdivision regulations in order to ensure that the appropriate environmental testing is done and those concerns. This is a zoning question, not an environmental question. The point was made that there certainly needs to be adequate environmental testing before any type of subdivision is built. That will be done as a matter of course. The question before you is, should this 0.03 acres be transferred from a fringe agricultural zone to a residential zone? That's a whole different question. But the question is one of zoning and planning, which is clearly one that falls within your purview. The question here really is not whether it's agricultural or not, or whether it's polluted or not. It's whether or not the character of the neighborhood is such that it would be appropriate to rezone the property to accommodate the construction which is being proposed.
And I don't think we have a problem with this at all. I'm just saying that you have a large streams agricultural parcel left that hasn't been rezoned to anything. Before that's transferred over into another residential development, I think that Ms. Clark made a good point. We need to require that phase 3 environmental study to be done, and it's not required right now in our ordinance. So, I mean, we're not gonna stop him from doing what he wants to do. We're gonna give you your zoning request. But, you know, thank you very much, Ms. Clark, for bringing that up. But I've never thought about that, and I'm sure
It
that's what
has
should be
happened in Lexington County.
It's happened before.
Yeah, and it's in West Columbia. I forget the name of the neighborhood.
I was involved in that.
That's why I bring it up, Jake, just, you know. But there were homes built on top of a landfill, garbage,
Garbage field
Yeah.
was over at the golf course over there.
Charwood.
Charwood, yes.
Shouldn't say-
Mr. Lester Lucas basically built homes on top of a garbage dump.
Yeah.
And this, though, took place, that lawsuit was tried late 70s, early 80s. We also had a situation like that, which occurred in the upper end of Lexington County up towards Chapin. But that was where actually in the environmental testing, there was a problem that was simply missed by the environmental engineers who had been hired to fix the thing. It happens from time to time, but believe me, the testings are done before subdivisions go in.
That's why the testing's done before construction can happen.
But we don't require it, though.
Well, the county does.
So I think
We
the
don't
county requires.
tell people they can build, but the county does. And that's why it's required.
So we're saying that the county requires it? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I mean, we should probably end the debate so we can vote, but I think it's something for us to continue.
Look into some details.
Sure.
On what they actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, okay. All in favor of third and final reading, raise your right hand. Second reading, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Under new business, first reading ordinance 2005 to annex in county map TMS 11998-05, basically 7582 Irmo Drive. This is a single-family resident. It's contiguous with the town of Irmo. As a matter of fact, it's right next to the Youngener compound. As you can see there, everything in orange is in the town limits and in the Youngener compound. These people just bought that house and want to be in the Irmo community. I think it's a great idea. It's a beautiful piece of land.
No zoning
No, just
Okay.
residential, single-family residential.
Well,
Got it.
they're actually down zoning. I mean, they're in would be neighborhood commercials around them, but they want to be, zoned the same.
Okay.
Okay?
And this is right next door.
Yes.
I understand. Got it.
As a matter of fact, you can see their house out the back door.
Do we make a motion on this?
Go ahead. You make a motion?
I make a motion.
All right, second.
I'll second.
All
Now we
right.
can discuss it.
Any more discussion on it? I'm getting like the previous, man.
I just love when somebody new comes into town, so
They want to come in.
they want to come in.
Mr. Signature, any comments?
No comment. Welcome to the town if we vote him in.
All right. Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, first reading, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. First reading of ordinance 2006 to Mr. Signature to have term limits for elected officials. Is there a motion for first reading?
I make a motion.
Mrs. Kelly made a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Mrs. Condom, second. Mr. Kelly, or
I would like to yield my time.
yield your time? You've been
Well-
watching too much impeachment stuff.
I know, yeah, I don't want to yield mine because
Okay.
even though I'm retiring in a year and a half, maybe a little longer. Anyway, this is not a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. If I weren't going to retire, if I was going to run again, I'd be on council over 20 years. I mean, that's too long. And I can tell it because of you and you. Because Barry and I know a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of experience, and we have good judgment. But y'all came in with all kind of energy and all kind of new ideas, and which is all for the better. And we need to make room for that. So even though I'm leaving, I think this is a good idea.
Okay.
According to this, you can run for mayor, you know that, right?
No, that's fine. I'm fine. This isn't, I'm ready.
So the original writing of this was prompted by citizen feedback. And it was written in an intentional way. It wasn't just in an attempt to just create term limits. The idea here is that after your second term, it's possible that you've served both of those terms under a majority with which you did not agree. And I think some of you might have served those two terms as on council under a majority with which you did not agree.
Oh, okay.
Is it the proposition usage that?
No, he's not talking about, okay, I know what
So what that would do is that would leave you as a minority voice in voting, and that would give you the release valve of at least having one term without having to get voted down every time you wanted to do something. And an attempt to have our mayors be experienced council people as legislators and as knowing how to run a council meeting, allowing that individual, if they so chose, to go beyond those three and serve an additional 2 as mayor. The intent here is it's so hard to get someone's attention, you basically have to plant signs and wave your arms and knock on doors just to get someone to pay attention and realize that you're running. And I think we all have experience doing that. It gives the incumbents an incredible position of power in the next election if they chose to run again. And I think 12 years is a really long time to run on council.
It is.
That's it.
Okay. I have a couple
one
of
thing.
comments. Okay, go ahead.
First round.
No, she's going to because see, I'm female, so.
Oh, okay.
She's female, so she gets to go first.
Yeah.
There was an occasion when we had people running with no opposition.
That's what I was going to say.
And that we must have been doing something right. I'm not sure what, but it happened with John Gibbons too, didn't it?
Yep.
Nobody else ran from it. Nobody wanted to run against him. I don't know how you write that in there, but you know, if on the last day of filing nobody files, maybe the person was doing something right. Just throwing that out.
I think that's a good amendment.
Okay, but I got to figure out how to write it.
Yeah.
We got two more readings.
We have, yeah.
2 more reading, but
If it passes,
it's happened before, so
It's a good point.
There's a couple of points here I'd like to make. First point is that, unlike you, Mr. Sickinger, you didn't run from a safe seat or from a position of having any strength. You ran as a brand new councilman against an incumbent. So your argument about having incumbency wields a lot of power is pretty vague and false. You beat an incumbent by a wide margin. So did you, Mr. Kelly. You ran from not from a safe seat. You ran from a outside position running against an incumbent. And you beat that incumbent by a wide margin to get elected. So that tells you that the people, the 13,000 residents, make the decision on whose term limits will be and when they will be, not the 4 of us. I think this is a decision that we need to make when it's for our appointed boards and commissions. We make those appointments and we determine their longevity on those boards and commissions, as opposed to taking from the citizens the right to make a decision whether or not they want to continue having you serve in your capacity or not, have us have an artificial end date. That's what you're proposing. So I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we have a full council, which will happen in a couple of weeks.
Defer it.
I'm sorry. I'd like to defer this until we have a full council. That's my motion.
A second.
Mr. Kelly seconded. Is there any discussion on deferring it until we have a full council
Yeah,
to discuss it?
I'm in favor of that. That's fine.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor of deferring this until we have a full council so we can completely discuss this? Raise your right hand. All opposed? Thank you very much, Mr. Sickinger, and this is deferred until
The March
sometime March 17th.
Okay.
Okay.
But the election is March the 3rd. Okay. Okay.
First, ordinance the approval of the 2020 orchestra proposed budget. Is there a motion for approval of the orchestra budget?
I move.
Mr. Kelly, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Condon, second. We understand it. You don't need to talk. No, I'm kidding. Mr. Slaughter.
Yes.
You have proposed to us a $122,000 budget for the 2020 orchestra, and it looks like your budget versus your expenditures are in balance. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about that?
Well, no, thanks, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, good Councilman, Mr. Councilman Bush Kelly.
Kelly Bush.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. I'm just here to answer questions as they might come up. This is, we've continued to grow the strut. I think this is, the last one was the best strut. I'm just extraordinarily proud of it. I think it was a great festival. This will actually kind of drop down a couple of things because it's hard in government bookkeeping to keep growing here. Costs have gone up on a number of things, and we hope to grow it. We hope to increase sponsorships and increase funding, and if we do, you probably see me back in October or so to make some spending on next year's, additional spending on next year's headliners. But with that, I also mentioned that we're showing in the transfer from general funds an amount equal to what we were awarded by the accommodations tax advisory committees, but then also the $49.50 of surplus that we had from 2019. So that's kind of it. If there's any questions, I've just wanted to be here if you needed them.
The sponsorships look good, real good.
We've done it's about double what we had done. We're raising a little bit of our lower level sponsorship fees this year, and that's why we're pushing the numbers a little bit more. But we need more big sponsors. So
to get people
guys,
involved, business or whatever, it's the best thing in the world.
We've gotten great support. I'm going to collar Councilman Bush Kelly and see if we can get hooked up for, I keep hearing you call him Councilman Kelly, but I like that anyway. So anyway, see if he can hook me up with a connection at Dominion by the chance. That would be a lovely sponsorship we'd love to see.
You work on that. That's good.
So the orchestra reserves line is completely blank. Is that intentional?
It is. We have used, 2 years ago, we budgeted $10,000 from the reserves line. Quite frankly, was kind of instructed not to budget with reserves this year. So, we would use it. We'll try to increase the income at the strut, which means somewhere in October, if we've got some additional surplus, I'll try to increase that for the 2021 entertainment.
I'm sorry, did I hear you right? You said you were instructed to not put money in your budget for the reserve?
Yes.
That would be correct if that was me, yes.
Okay.
It's not their money. It's in the general fund, belongs to council. They can always come request whatever they want out of the reserves that they've accumulated over the year, but they can't just arbitrarily put it in their budget. They don't have that control over it.
Okay, thank you. I see website support and marketing media has gone up over last year. And I hate to nitpick, but this is a budget and this is our chance to approve it. So can you talk to me about why the cost has gone up from when the actual was lower for website support? And it looks like the actual for marketing media was lower than your budget. Why your budget is higher for marketing media for 20?
Sure, and it's fair question, and fact is, the price went up. We did solicit bids for website and social media support, and our best bid was more than it had been in prior years. So, you know, we've got a number of things that have gone up in price. That's one of them. Police support, town overtime, all these things have gone up in time, and that's one of the limiting factors as we're trying to address these increases. And it's kind of I don't want to digress, but, you know, again, in that regard, it's just our prices went up. We know we need to advertise, and we need to advertise particularly in light of tax advisory funds that we get. We need to advertise. We're advertising Charlotte, Greenville, Charleston, et cetera. But it's one of these things that kind of Bob gets on me. I don't mean any disrespect, but me getting my mind from private budgeting to government budgeting always kind of it constricts me. You know, it's very difficult to move forward because as we increase we're always kind of in arrears. If I got the Rolling Stones out there for the 2020 budget, we really wouldn't make that much more income yet because all of our fees are based on people coming in advance. Now, maybe in 2021, then we'd say, hey, we made a lot of money there because the Rolling Stones. So then we'd start raising more fees. So it's kind of hard. We're kind of chasing into the future always, which is, you know, we don't know at this point what the accommodations tax will grant us. We don't know what Richland County will grant us, but we've got to set a budget and hope that we can spend and acquire the funds that we need.
And we're going to have the Rolling Stones?
No.
Second.
We're thinking about it.
All in favor?
Thought I'd ask.
And I, you know, I just want to point out, I mean, your budget hasn't increased that much over 2019. I think it's a great event, of course, fully support it. So,
good. Thanks. Thank you, Council.
Any more comments? You ready to vote? Will the clerk call the roll, please? Will the clerk call the roll for the vote?
Yay.
Yay.
Yay?
No.
yay.
Unanimous. Thank you. This is a portion of the minutes of the agenda where we have presentation by citizens to address council on anything that you've heard here tonight or you want to talk about in the future. This is not a debate. You have 3-minute time limit to address council. Remember that this is the portion where you're respectful to us and we will be respectful to you. Are there any persons wanting to address council? Anybody? Seeing none, then we have a discussion item. No, we don't have a discussion item. We have an executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Kelly moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sickinger, second. All in favor of going into executive session, raise your hand. We will go into executive session and we'll be back.
Point of inquiry. What's the purpose of going into executive session?
Personal action on Planning Commission and ZBA.
Thank you.
You reminded me. Thank you.
8:17, that's pretty good. I got a flight at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
Oh, we can make it. Where's Kathy? Don't get a bun.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually make it.
Kathy, come on. Kathy, Councilwoman Condom.
If you chant her name, she'll appear.
Councilwoman Condom.
Clap your hands.
Clap your
Dot
hands.
your eyes.
Click your heels.
Check. Check.
Check, check. Check. There you go.
Check.
Man, it's beer time, man. Come on. Thank you for joining us again. We are back from executive session. No votes were taken. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I motion we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Council meeting over. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Have a great evening, everybody. Wait a minute, don't cut the light off. I can't see.
It's a little